Hi, this is Chloe. So, in the first chapter of 1984, there are multiple techniques that Orwell uses to kind of just convey different tones, different themes, different messages that he's just trying to present in his whole story overall. So there are six techniques that we have found in this chapter. I'm gonna go ahead and go over the first three. So the first one is imagery. And so obviously when we read the book, we see that Orwell describes things very vividly and he loves to just give a lot of great descriptions that just paints a really good mental picture in our head. So I included a couple of examples, one from page 9 saying, "Outside, even through the shut window pane, the world looked cold. Down in the street, little eddies of wind were whirling dust and torn paper into spirals. There seemed to be no color in anything." And the next one is saying the pen, this is from page 13, sorry. It says the pen was an archaic instrument. He's talking about the pen when he was about to write in his journal. Seldom used even for signatures, and he had procured one furtively and with some difficulty, simply because of a feeling that the beautiful creamy paper deserved to be written on with a real nub instead of being scratched with an ink pencil. So the reason I included these two quotes is because I really feel like it just adds to the whole setting of just this dystopian world and just the way that, the way that Winston and everyone in Oceania has to live. And like it's pretty much like that quote says archaic. Like everything from the past, everything that once was used to express their creativity is now dull and it's now useless. And you can even see, like, when he talks about the way the streets are, the way the apartment is, it's just, it all seems cold and unwell and not well kept. You can see there's no creativity in anything because, well, they're not allowed to have creativity because creativity in itself is a form of individualism. We'll go ahead and go to the second one. The second one is symbolism. And this one's really important because this one kind of ties into the rest of the story. So I included another quote from page 9, and I said, "And Winston, who was 39 and had a varicose ulcer above his right ankle, went slowly, resting several times on the way." This is when he was going up the staircase to his apartment. The next quote I included was from page 14, and it says, "All he had to do was to transfer to paper the interminable restless monologue. At this moment, however, even the monologue had dried up. Moreover, his varicose ulcer had begun scratching unbearably. He dared not scratch it, because if he did so, it would always become inflamed." So the reason that I included I guess these two quotes was mainly because it always talked about his ulcer and it talked about the fact that it was on his right ankle. And, from different archetypes and just things we've learned in the past years in English, we've learned that right is always, well, right. It's good. It resembles something that's good. But it has an ulcer on there, and this ulcer always irritates him whenever he decides to do something that expresses his his humanness, what makes him human, his uniqueness. Um, when in this case, it started irritating him when he decided to put to paper his thoughts about the government and everything just going on. And so it's almost like the ulcer is a resemblance and a symbolism of the corruption of Big Brother that we'll later see in the very end of the chapter of the book. Sorry, we'll see at the very end of the book when we saw Winston through this whole story and we thought that he was going to be the one to defy the government to be different, but in reality, the government was corrupting him the whole time, through O'Brien, through just like everything that he ever thought was a rebellion was actually going to be used against him. So this varicose ulcer just was a symbolism of that corruption. The third thing I'm going to go over is his use of metaphor and similes, or just comparisons. So the two quotes I included was one from when he was in his apartment and two when he went to the Parsons, which is their neighbors. So the first quote from page 12 says, "Instantly his face turned scarlet and the water ran out of his eyes. The stuff was like nitric acid, and moreover, in swallowing it, one had the sensation of being hit on the back of the head with a rubber club." And the next quote from page 28. Something hit the back of his neck, an agonizingly painful blow. It was as though a red-hot wire had been jabbed into him. He spun around to see Mrs. Parsons dragging her son back into the doorway while the boy pocketed a catapult. So I really just wanted to include these just because I just thought it was really cool how, Orwell used similes and metaphors to just express even just like the feelings of pain. Because I know when we go through pain, we just tend to think about like we can feel the pain and we can feel how intense it is, especially physical pain, which is mainly what these quotes talk about. Um, but we never really know how to describe it, and I think it's just very interesting the way Orwell described pain in this book, especially because physical pain is such a prominent theme in this book, especially at the end when that's ultimately what broke Winston and his passions and his love was physical pain. So I think it's very cool that he highlighted that in this section. So yeah, I'll go ahead and give it off to Roxy to read off the last three.